2021. Live on connectonair.com and remoteradioweek.org.
Connect on Air.
Remote Radio Week proposes distinct programs in English, French, Spanish and Arabic, featuring experts, examples, debates and technical tips. UNESCO Remote Radio Week 2021. Get ready for a week devoted to helping radio stations broadcast remotely. Live on connectonair.com and remote-radio-week.org.
It is indeed UNESCO's Remote Radio Week, day 5 of 5, and I'm Andy Levitt. Pleased to be here once again, and we're about to kick off a very exciting masterclass with Corinne Podger. Just a reminder, though, this is in partnership with World Health Organization and UNESCO, and the aim is to have this particular week be an online training program aimed at building the capacity of local radio stations to produce accurate and professional radio content in the event of containment measures or emergencies, including financial difficulties. And of course, you can go find all of the discussions, the masterclasses, the videos that have been played during the course of the week, including today, on remoteradioweek.org. As I said, masterclass time. Without further ado, Corinne Podger from the Digital Skills Academy. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Andy. It's really lovely to be here. And Andy, can you give me a ping at about a minute before I need to drop out, and I'll just zip through? Yeah, awesome, terrific. Thanks. Okay, so folks, I'm going to share my screen. So let's give that a go. It's also different to Zoom. I'm so used to Zoom. Chrome tab, that one, and then hopefully if I do slideshow, is that working?
Something is appearing. There we go. There's something on the screen. Yay. Yes.
So good. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, listen, thanks so much for having me. So this is what we're going to try and whip through in half an hour. What is social audio? I'm going to walk you through Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces so that you've got the basics of how to use them. We'll talk a bit about some other tools. If you have a moment to download Clubhouse and Twitter Clubhouse and Twitter to your phone, then you can hold the phone in your hand and I can talk you through it. But of course, you can also watch the recording later and just go through it slowly. That being said, these apps get updated all the time. And in fact, this evening when I logged on, there had been some changes like, I have to update my slides. Anyway, so they move quite quickly. Very briefly about me, I've been a journalist since 1992 and I've been training since 2013. And it is such a joy for me to be here with you guys today. So what is social audio? Well, it's audio first social media, basically. And I guess the sort of big ticket items in that shop are live conversation platforms like Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, but also voice messaging and audiogram generators. And what do they offer is audience engagement. So instead of audio just zipping off to Mars after our beautiful radio programs, we get to capture some of it and make it look like something or be something that people can see on a phone and participate in. And it's a great way of promoting radio programming and podcasting. And in the concept of this conference about Remote Radio Week, you can use these platforms to get audio from anywhere and share it everywhere. So it's really exciting. And particularly these things, the live conversation platforms, they're the sort of thing that you can use just on your phone from wherever you are. And I think they're really transforming what we think about when we think about conversations that people can take part in. So they're a bit like talkback radio, but also different. So Clubhouse has been around since last year. It launched on Android this year, and it stopped being an invitation-only platform in July, so just a few months ago. And then Twitter Spaces launched November last year on iOS. Android, it launched in April this year. And in October, so it's just a few weeks ago, it got rid of the requirement to have more than 600 followers before you could use it. So it's now available to everybody. Then there are others, of course, coming up. So Facebook Live Audio was announced in June 2021, but it is still, I was advised by someone at Facebook in India this week, it's for people who are public figures or select Facebook groups, and it seems to be mostly US only. So just watch that space, but it's not really with us yet. And LinkedIn Live Audio 2021, but it doesn't seem to be available yet. So if you've got it, join the after party with us later on Twitter Spaces and tell us your experiences. So, okay, so if you've had chance to download Clubhouse to your phone, let's go through it. So if you open the app, the top of the app, the sort of landing page is called the foyer. And there's a search bar there. And then at the top, there's a little button on the top left, which is for explore. Then there's an envelope, which is still on the app, even though it's not invitation only. So you can kind of ignore that. Then there's a calendar. There's a little bell for notifications. And on the far right-hand side, there's your profile. Then down the bottom on the right is a little, like a paper plane. That's called back channel. And that's a way of messaging people within the app. And at any time, if you want to get back to the foyer, you'll find that there's a back button. So let's talk you through it. So the search bar allows you to type in a topic. So in the examples there on the screen, I typed in the word climate and it showed me clubs that I could join. You can see there are tabs, people, clubs, rooms, and events. So clubs are groups that meet regularly. Rooms are one-off conversations, and events are scheduled rooms or scheduled club meetings. So that's what you get when you type into the search bar. Then the Explore tab, it allows you to search for people by names. You can also search using emoji in Clubhouse, which is kind of fun. And then below that, you'll see find conversations about, and there's a number of topics there. And if you were to tap on wellness, for example, that would then give you subtopics like health or medicine or fitness or nutrition. And you can really dig into a very granular level to find conversations that would be of interest to you. Once you find a topic and you find a club that looks like it might be worth joining, you just tap on it and then join it. And you can leave clubs, join them, doesn't really matter. It's a very friendly platform, or it aims to be very friendly. The next item along is the calendar menu, and it gives you two options. So there's upcoming for you, which will give you recommendations based on who you follow, clubs you've joined, and your interests. And we'll talk about interests later. You adjust it in settings. It'll also show you, if you tap on the down button there, it'll show you my events. So if you've scheduled any events, that's where they land. And then there's a bell icon. So if you think I wouldn't mind learning about, these were just the ones that came up on my phone at the time, the daily Surah Yasin recitation. If you want to join that, you tap that little bell and you'll get a little notification when it's about to start. So notifications, these are rooms started by people you follow or updates of people who followed you. So that's literally what the bell's icon does. And then the last one is your profile. Your profile can actually be quite long, like several paragraphs, and it can include emoji. If you remember, I said you can search for emoji on Clubhouse. So if you're a radio person, you would put an emoji of the radio somewhere in your profile. You can add your contact information and socials at the bottom, and right at the very bottom of everyone's profile in Clubhouse is a list of the clubs that they've joined. And then on the top right of your profile is where you access settings. So let's talk about settings. It's the cogwheel in your profile. It's where you can set things like your interests, but also your languages. You can turn on spatial audio, which is 3D audio. So clubs that are broadcasting in stereo will give you stereo sound. It's also where you can find contact information for Clubhouse, and also access the community guidelines. I do recommend reading through those. It's important to abide by the rules of the platform, and that's where you find them. So if you wanted to start a room in Clubhouse, you go to the foyer, and then at the very bottom, it just says start a room. And then if we work through these images here on the screen, You can choose between open rooms, which is open to anybody, a social room, which is open to people that you follow, or a closed room, which is a room with just people that you choose. Then you give it a title and you tap Let's Go. And as soon as you tap Let's Go, the room is live. If you want to schedule a room, you tap the calendar icon and then tap the plus button that comes up in the calendar icon. And then you'll open up this thing. I've put here social audio party, so I filled in some details there. I quite often do Clubhouse sessions and Twitter spaces with a friend of mine called Anne Charles. So you just write a little description and then you promote it, you create it, and off it goes. And on the far right hand side there, you add it to your calendar so that you don't forget as well, because that's also quite helpful. If you want to create a club, anyone can create a club now, seems to be. For a long time you had to apply. It was quite messy to apply for one, but now you can just create one if you want. So go back to your profile, scroll all the way to the bottom. Do you remember I said all the clubs you're a member of appear there? At the far right hand side is a little grey box with a plus button in it, and you just tap that and it'll allow you to create a new club. Now, should you create a club? You don't have to. You can just run rooms, to be honest. The thing that's nice about clubs is that they are searchable. But if your club isn't active very often, it's a bit of a downer. And really, these things live outside of the platform as well. You would need to be promoting these events on your other socials, on your podcast, on your radio show. So to be honest, it's really up to you. You can start a club or just run rooms whenever you feel like it. So let's go to Twitter Spaces. What's this all about? Well, Twitter Spaces is live audio conversations on Twitter. And the way you access them, just to see what's going on in the world of spaces at the moment, is to go to your Twitter account, and in the middle of the bottom of your screen, there are these 4 little circles. And if you tap on that, that will show you some of the Twitter Spaces that are happening live right now. Once you open that space up as well, you can see there I've got on the image in the middle, there's a big red arrow pointing at the little purple icon. And if you tap on that icon, that takes you to the community guidelines. So that's how you can find out how to use Twitter Spaces and what the latest rules are. So how to start one. Go to your Twitter and you do a long press on the new tweet icon, and that will bring up this purple icon there. And if you tap on that, it will allow you to then select your space or create your space. Really exciting, just in the last couple of days, recording a space has been opened up to everybody. This is really interesting, actually. Your recordings will live live on the platform. Sorry, not live live. They will live on the platform for 30 days, apparently, so you can download them. You can go live straight away, so start now. Or you can tap the little calendar icon just next to the start now, and that will bring you up the opportunity to schedule a space. And again, once you've scheduled something, whether it's Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces, you should share it. So you can copy the link and paste it anywhere and make sure that you're promoting it widely. So how do we record these things? Well, I would just give you the caveat that it's good to only record your conversations. I think recording someone else's conversations is kind of not cool. And if you are starting an event or scheduling an event where you're going to be recording it, just put the word rec in the title somewhere so that it's really clear to anyone who's joining that forum that it's being recorded. So Twitter Spaces just got super easy. I updated this slide deck today because in-app recording is just launched. Clubhouse, in-app recording is expected or was expected last month, but it's not. I haven't been able to see it in my app. If you've got it, great. But up until then, there's a couple of ways you can do it. One is to screen record on your phone. If you can do that using your iPhone or your Android. There is another alternative, which is to use a platform called Club Deck, which is not affiliated to Clubhouse. But it does give you a desktop-based interface, which is pretty straightforward to use, and it's got a really good website that talks you through how to use everything. So you would log into Club Deck on your PC or your Mac, use a headset or desktop mic, and there's the option to record and then download your recording. Just one little thing, which I found out kind of by accident, is that if you log into Club Deck on a PC, it will log you out of Clubhouse on your phone. So fun fact, just be aware. A couple of other things, more features. Both of these platforms offer paid spaces, so you can start to think about ticketed Twitter spaces or Clubhouse paid rooms. And if you want to follow the news on both of these platforms, Clubhouse has a blog, and follow Twitter Spaces on Twitter for all of the latest updates. And of course, Twitter also has a blog, and it's kept up to date. They're releasing features all the time on both of these platforms. So they're both worth opening at least once a month to see what's going on. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is voice messaging and audiogram generators. And I'm going to whip through them quite quickly because I've got about 4 minutes. So voice messaging is audio from the audience. Both WhatsApp and Telegram will allow you to open the app and do a long press on the microphone, and that will set off a recording. So encouraging your audience to send you audio is great using these platforms. Similarly, Skype, I think we all forgot about Skype because of Zoom, but on Skype, on a phone, iPhone or Android, doesn't matter. If you tap those 3 little dots when you're on a phone call with somebody, you can start a recording. It will record video, obviously, but that doesn't matter. You just go to your desktop, download the MP4, drop it into something like Audacity, and it will just rip out the audio for you straight away, and you can use that in your next show or podcast. Audiogram generators. This is those tools that give you the little wavy line and the script on the screen. There's a couple that are really great to try out. One is Headliner, the other one is Reel. They both offer a certain amount of free stuff. Headliner gives you free, I think it's 5 videos per month, and there's no watermark. But then if you go pro, it's a bit more expensive. Reel is cheaper, but you get 2 free videos per month, and they're watermarked. So try both, see what you think. They do both offer transcription, which is brilliant, and captions and animated transcribed videos. So lots and lots of really cool things to try out there to give your audio greater reach on social. So that's pretty much the end of it from me. If you want to get in touch with me, honestly, the easiest way is to send me a direct message on Twitter, but that's my email address there, and I do teach this stuff and would love to hear from you. So I'm just going to press stop sharing and go back to the StreamYard call. And I think I was pretty much on time. 2 minutes to go. Do you have any questions, Andy?
I don't. I'm sitting here rather bewildered at the world of opportunity when it comes to the audio space, but also just multimedia, how it's constantly evolving, constantly just surprising me. And I didn't realize that there were so many different kind of apps. And I believe that everyone watching was certainly sitting there with eyes wide open as well. So thank you very much, Corinne, for your insight. And I think I have a question / statement, rather, that, when there was this new disruptor called social media, a lot of traditional media was kind of caught unawares, and there was lots of conversation of, oh wow, is this the end of radio? Is this the end of television? But it's interesting to see how so much of the social media space can quite very well coexist with traditional media.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, Philippe has just sent me a reminder that we have 10 minutes to chat, which is epic. So there's so much to dig into, because I think, when we talk about the tools, that's the kind of the what, right? But now we can talk about some of the why, like why would you use this stuff? And I think when we think about, everyone's always on their phone, right? Like, it doesn't matter where you go. I think if people have the means to acquire a phone, they will get one. And we're spending a lot of our time on social platforms. They have visual mediums. So I mean, I find it really exciting because I was a radio journalist primarily for most of my career. But there's no visual record of any of that stuff. And, the thought that someone can, whether it's, okay, so maybe start a live conversation about a topic that's of interest to everybody today, that's a really powerful tool. And because it's on a visual, interface, right? Like you can see with your eyes who's in the room, and you can, spot people that and say, oh, would you like to come up and grab the mic? That's mind blowing to be able to create a little audiogram and to do it so cheaply. I mean, I'm an Adobe user, and to create one of those things in, Premiere or After Effects is just really time consuming and horrible.
Yes.
So the fact that you can
Yes.
just drop an MP3 onto a desktop and it just, ta-da, it's like, get out. That's amazing, But thinking about the why, I mean, there was a wonderful series of morning shows that a friend of mine in Fiji was doing all the way through the pandemic. So her name is Live Mavono, and I think she was one of the speakers during this week. And she was running a daily conversation, checking in with people in Fiji about where things were up to with the COVID pandemic, and that can be anybody, right? And anybody can join that conversation and offer their feelings and, share their impressions of what was going on, because Fiji really got smashed with COVID, and that's a unique thing, I think, that a radio broadcast doesn't offer that, because you can't just interact, so I think that's a really exciting tool.
No, fascinating. And I agree with you. I'm sitting here nodding profusely and away because I do relate to the Adobe struggle. So it is good to see that there are other resources out there that can, especially for lower income communities, be a form of them to also be able to join in or extend their presence in the online space. And I know that you do quite a lot of work with NGOs across the board. So what are some of the insights that you can give, particularly to under-resourced radio stations that have a good following on air and want to extend their reach across, the social media space? What are some of the learnings that you have that you can provide to those that are watching and tuning in today?
So a couple of thoughts. First of all, I think you can try these things in sort of smaller forums, right? So, Clubhouse, as you saw, will allow you to do just people that I choose, for instance. And you can start a small sort of a Twitter space that it's a closed space. So I would say, try it out first of all, right? But I think giving something a go, but also allowing your audience to know that you're trying something new. That to me is, I suppose, a good policy when you're trying out something that's unfamiliar, not just to you, but also to your audience, and say, why don't we go on this journey together a bit? And I think also, these tools, both the voice messaging apps and also the live conversation platforms, allows you to get a very immediate sense from your community. Are we covering the topics that are interesting to you? Do you have a story that you want to share with us that don't involve bringing someone into the studio? Okay, of course you can get someone on a phone, but actually the audio quality that you will get in these apps is better. It's using the microphone on the phone. So you're automatically like lifting the quality of the sound just by using one of these forums. I'm not sure that that's necessarily answering your question. I mean, if there are folks on the masterclass today who are joining from sort of maybe an NGO-y background or from a sort of crossover into development spaces, to me, these are so much more interesting than a seminar on Zoom, right? I think almost all of us who've ever interviewed an expert know that kind of sinking feeling if you do it on a Zoom where they've got a PowerPoint presentation. You just think, oh no, this is going to be dull. But then as soon as the presentation's over and you get into the Q&A part of the conversation, everyone comes to life, right? So in a way, you can kind of skip that bit and go straight into a conversation to say, great, so we've got so-and-so from, the WHO on the call. We've got so-and-so from, from Oxfam on the call. Tell us what you see. Tell us what's going on there, and really get that immediacy, which, that's gold on radio and podcasting. That's gold, Yeah.
It is the intimacy, the connection. The radio is my friend, the presenter becomes part and parcel of your life. Radio is an amazing medium. And I think social media, as I said already, is that, it's not something to fear. It's literally something that can be used as an extension of that trusted medium of radio. And I know that there's a party happening on Twitter. You and Philippe have organized an after party as a Twitter space. So I'm sure there'll be more conversations and more insight, etc., going on there. Right, Philippe, as you join us.
I'm joining because I was not supposed to join. So, but I'm joining because I think there's another thing I wanted to notice on everything you said, which is really interesting. For me, there's a difference between Clubhouse and Twitter. We are using a lot Clubhouse. I mean, I've been doing 60 rooms of an hour, so it's a lot of time going through a Clubhouse. And why did we do that? We did that because we wanted to connect to our readers. Because it's for podcasting, and we are having a community on podcasting in French, and that's a big issue with connecting to your listeners when you're a radio station broadcasting. Not maybe in countries like Africa, but in Europe. There's a big trouble with radio stations. They are not connected. There's few radio stations that are still. In France, for instance, or in different countries, you still have people talking outside of when they talk on the microphone. They talk on live on Twitter. They talk with the listeners, and they know what they expect. And what I think is different between Clubhouse and Twitter, to come back to my thoughts, is Clubhouse has some real person behind with real names, because you were obliged at the beginning to be invited by someone and granted by someone. So you had to be real, not with a pseudo or a nickname. Where Twitter, we know that 40% of the account on Twitter are false, are here with AI to give some false information, and we know it's true. We know it's the same on Facebook. So it can come on Clubhouse, but that's what I prefer compared to Twitter.
I guess what I would say to that, Philippe, is there are two things. One is it depends on where our audience is, right? And I think, for example, on Twitter Spaces, because it's showing me the accounts that I know and follow. So I feel confident that the people that I see who are starting a Twitter space are the people that they are. But more to the point, I guess it's a question of where our audience is. What platforms are they using? Like, what I prefer is kind of irrelevant, really. If my audience is on X platform and I try and push them towards Y platform, that's going to be tricky. But I also think what'll be really interesting, next year, there's a little caveat there, but if Facebook rolls out live audio, again, because they did it in 2016, do you remember? Facebook live audio. If you do a Google search for Facebook live audio and then you just customize your search to 2016, they announced this 5 years ago, but they're doing it again. Yay. But if they roll that out, that's really exciting for Facebook groups, for radio stations that have Facebook pages.
I agree.
Yeah, so, and then, I mean, LinkedIn is also, that will be interesting. Possibly, and it'll be very different demographics. Sorry, it's a long answer or a long point, but I think it really depends on what the audience are using. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, I heard I have heard, live conversations on Telegram too. So
Oh yeah, well, everyone is just rushing into
we're
the
spoiled
audio,
for choice.
social audio space.
Goodness
But it's
sake.
interesting because you're really listening to each other, which you were not doing. You're doing that less, even when you're watching each other. You just have that imagination that is not as rich as when you're listening to each other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Corinne. Thank you, Andy. I'll let you finish your
Thanks,
conference because
Andy.
I was not supposed to be there. So
You just dropped in
I just dropped
unexpectedly.
in.
No
Okay.
problem whatsoever. I think actually it's more about you and Corinne right now. Just remind us once again where this after party is taking place.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to put the link because we made a short link which is pretty simple. pod.wf/rrw. So I will display it right now. Very fast. Hop, create banner. That's the good thing here. You can go there, http://pod.wf/rrw, and it goes to the Twitter Spaces in, well, a little 50 minutes. We can share together if you want to come up on stage with Corinne. I will be also co-hosting to start with, and we will go on talking about all that, the difference between the veracity and the capacity of knowing really who is talking when you bring them up. If you don't know them, if they have pseudos, that's also another problem that radio stations had at the beginning. In the 80s when they started, they didn't know really who was talking. It was a lot of problems. So that's also another point with the social audio, the possibility of having people saying things that we don't want them to say.
I'm just wanting to check exactly how many minutes exactly from now are we starting this?
It's I think it's 48 minutes if I'm correct, because it's
past the hour, 14:30 Paris time, I believe.
14:30 Paris time, exactly. Yeah,
exactly. And it'll be on my Twitter account. So if you, I'm the only Corinne Podger in the world. I've got such a random name.
Amazing. Okay, so we have to go on to the finish.
You'll find me easily. Well, listen, thank you so much. And Andy, thanks so much for moderating the session. It's really a pleasure to meet you and a real honor to be here with this towards the end of the radio week. What a joy. Gosh.
Thank you so much, Corinne. And we'll join the after party in a couple of minutes. Remember, this and all the other sessions are available to watch or rewatch on remoteradioweek.org. That's remoteradioweek.org.
Bye.
UNESCO Remote Radio Week 2021. Get ready for a week devoted to helping radio stations broadcast remotely. Live on connectonair.com and remote-radio-week.org.